Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're heading north, deep into this really fertile cradle of history in the Lower Galilee. We're going to be focusing on one institution that our sources suggest is doing something, well, pretty remarkable, the Ein Dor Museum. Our mission today is, pretty straightforward. We've got this whole stack of material on the museum's exhibits, its programs, its really ambitious social mission. And we're going to unpack how this one place manages to weave together millennia of human history. I mean, from the prehistoric all the way to the 19th century.
And then, and this is the key part, use all of that history to actively foster coexistence today.
Exactly. It feels like a shortcut to understanding what makes a community tick.
Well, you have to realize the drama starts with the geography itself. I mean, the museum isn't just in its historical area. It's built on legendary ground. It's right there at the foothills of Mount Tabor in the Jezreel Valley. And crucially, it's near the site of biblical Ein Dor.
And that name, that definitely rings a bell for a reason, right? Most of us have this vague memory of the story. King Saul, he's in disguise, and he goes to get advice from the witch of Endor.
The mistress of the Ob, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a story just steeped in ancient tension and anxiety.
So the museum is placing itself right in the middle of that.
Exactly. It deliberately roots itself in a place that's historically known for these tense encounters, maybe even conflict. But the genius of it is how it then tries to transform that legacy of ancient tension into a modern center for harmony and shared history.
Okay, so let's unpack that transformation. The museum was established in 1986. And the sources, they immediately hit you with this massive mission statement. It's not just a place for artifacts. They call it a multicultural, educational, social, and values-based center. That's a lot of hats to wear.
It is, but they seem to organize that complexity around two really fundamental bonds. These are like the pillars for their whole collection. First, they look at the bond between humans and the landscape, nature itself.
Okay, so how people interacted with the environment.
Right. How did settlement change the land? And how did the land dictate what people could even do? And then there's the second bond.
Which is?
The bond between humans and other humans. That's the critical sociological link. The museum consciously traces those relationships, the good and the bad, from the deep past right up to what's happening today in the Jezreel Valley.
I have to stop on that time scope for a second because that is just a ridiculously vast canvas. The displays start in the prehistoric period, we're talking the earliest human activity, and go all the way up to the 19th century CE. I mean, how do you even connect those two dots without it becoming too shallow?
That's a fair question, and I think the answer the sources give us is intentionality. They aren't trying to tell the entire history of a nation. They're focused only on showing the continuity of settlement and the shared methods of survival on this one specific piece of land.
So it's not about the politics, it's about the ecology and the sociology of the place.
Precisely. The exhibits aren't just showing you old pots. They're telling a story about how human attitudes towards natural resources, water, soil, stone, were shared across different cultures. And right alongside that, they detail the encounters and relationships between all the diverse communities that live side by side in this one space. The land is the constant.
Which brings us right to the core of this deep dive, multiculturalism. It's not just some academic idea for them, is it?
Not at all. They take the historical reality of different cultures living together and use it as a foundation to talk about the reality of the Galilee today.
And that reality is still pretty diverse.
Oh, absolutely. The region today is home to Jews, Arabs, Circassians, and Druze. 4 distinct communities, all living side by side. So the museum isn't just archiving the past, it's actively providing this neutral common ground for these societies to interact right now.
Okay, so this is where we need to get specific. How do they do that? What does active role actually mean on the ground?
Well, it's less about static exhibits and more about their programming. Their active role is hosting events designed specifically to bring these diverse societies and cultures together. They target everyone, kids, youth, adults, families, to make sure that this dialogue about shared history happens across all generations, no matter what their background is.
So it's like civic engagement, but dressed up as a history lesson. They're saying, look, here's the proof. You've all been doing this for thousands of years, so let's keep it going.
It creates this powerful local precedent. For example, they'll host a workshop where an Arab youth group and a Jewish youth group are both studying the same Byzantine artifact or learning an ancient craft together. That physical connection to a shared deep past just bypasses so much of the modern political noise.
And this all funnels down into that powerful philosophy you pointed out.
Yeah, the belief that underpins everything they do. It's this simple but kind of radical statement that There is room for everyone, for all human beings, in this space. By showing that different peoples have successfully shared this land for millennia, the museum provides tangible archaeological proof for coexistence. It moves the conversation from just an aspiration to, well, a documented historical fact.
That's a huge shift. Okay, let's dive into some of those specifics, the nuggets that show the quality of life they're documenting. Because it wasn't just diverse, it was also highly developed.
It really was. The sources highlight this one display of architectural items, stuff that was sourced from public buildings in the area. The fact that they even had complex public structures, not just simple houses, is immediate proof of a settled, rich public life.
So finding those relics, what does that tell us?
It reflects a rich public life and a high level of artistic activity. These weren't isolated, struggling little villages. These were sophisticated societies that could organize big construction projects and support skilled artisans. They were connected.
And there's tangible proof of that artistry. The sources point to one specific beautiful artifact, a mosaic floor.
An incredible find. This mosaic once decorated a prayer room, probably in a monastery or maybe a wealthy home from the area of Mazuba. And it dates back to the 7th century CE, which puts it right in the middle of the Byzantine period.
The 7th century, wow, that was a time of huge cultural exchange across the whole region. So a mosaic in a prayer room, what are we talking about art-wise?
Well, the sources don't specify the imagery, but mosaics from that time often had these intricate geometric patterns or natural motifs, like plants and animals. The fact that someone was commissioning and funding high-quality, long-lasting art like this just speaks volumes about the stability and wealth of the community, even as empires were shifting all around them. It proves that their coexistence wasn't just about survival. It actually allowed for culture to flourish.
That mosaic is a great link between high art and history, but then the museum makes it all hands-on. Which brings us to the Center for Ancient Crafts. I think this jump from abstract history to the practical daily life of the land is key to their whole mission.
It's the ultimate connector, the Center for the Preservation and Study of Ancient and Traditional Crafts. It basically moves the whole conversation from the stone of the mosaic floor to the soil beneath it. Its entire focus is showcasing the agricultural lifestyle of the past. And in doing that, it demonstrates this interdependent relationship between people, the land, and the environment. Agriculture is the one language everyone speaks because, everyone needs to eat.
And they don't just show you how it was done, they actually invite you to participate.
Exactly. The center is all about active participation and experience. You get to be part of the production process for field crafts, home crafts. This is so important for modern visitors, especially kids, to really connect emotionally with the deep past. You don't just learn about grain. You get to help turn wheat into bread, an activity that every single culture in the Galilee has shared for centuries.
And what's really brilliant is how they tie all of this to the rhythm of the year.
They make the ancient agricultural calendar tangible.
Yes.
The center organizes its activities based on the seasons, creating these two major focal points that connect ancient cycles directly to the present.
So what are those cycles the sources detail?
Okay, so the first big period is in the autumn and early winter. All the activity then centers around the olive harvest, and specifically the use of the olive press, which in Hebrew is the bi'at habad.
The bi'at habad, that's more than just a piece of equipment, isn't it? It's like a shared technology.
Absolutely. The olive and making olive oil, it's central to the culture and the food of all Mediterranean peoples, no matter their faith or language. The pressing technique itself is a universal technology that was shared by Jewish, Arab, and Druze communities for thousands of years. So by focusing on the bi'at habad, the museum is highlighting this shared infrastructure of labor.
And the second period?
That shifts to the other big staple crop. During the spring and summer, the focus moves to the wheat harvest and all the processes involved in preparing bread. Again, these are ancient universal activities that cut right across all contemporary cultural lines. They're shared practices, anchored in shared land.
It's just such a beautifully constructed idea for an institution. We started this deep dive at a site that's famous for, ancient adversarial tension, King Saul and the Witch of Endor, a place of mythic friction. And yet the museum built there has spent decades turning that legacy into a center of tangible, shared life, ending in the wholesome rhythm of the agricultural seasons.
The sources consistently underscore that. The success of the multicultural community there today isn't some accident or modern political invention. It's built on a long, long history of human-to-human connection, which fundamentally relies on a shared human-to-land connection. The land dictates the rules, the cycles of planting and harvesting, and those rules have required cooperation across diverse groups for millennia.
So the Ein Dor Museum, through its focus on history, environment, and shared crafts, it really provides this undeniable toolkit for civic life today. It's proof that if these four diverse groups can find common ground in ancient history and shared labor, then maybe any community facing diversity challenges can learn something from this model.
It transforms the Galilee from a place of ancient myth into a really powerful modern metaphor for harmony.
And that universality, I think, is the key takeaway for you, the listener. If the shared practices of ancient agriculture like the olive harvest and making bread can still serve as a practical meeting point for diverse communities in the Galilee, it raises an important question for all of us today.
What modern, universal, and non-political activities, whether it's shared climate action or digital communities or even urban gardening, what could we leverage in our own globalized world to cultivate similar bonds? To reinforce that belief that locally and globally there really is room for